Okay, I think we can get started here. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to the 2024 Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative Technical Assistance Webinar. We are going to cover a lot today. We just wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. And throughout the presentation, if you have a question, please put that in the Q&A box, and we will address that at the end. And again, another note, you will receive a copy of the PowerPoint at the end of the presentation, sometime, maybe not today, but you will get it at some point. The next is our non-discrimination disclaimer. Catherine, can you go through that?
Yes. In accordance with federal civil rights law and U.S. Department of Agriculture civil rights regulations and policies, the USDA, its agencies, offices, and employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, including gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity, and any program or activity conducted or funded by USDA. Not all bases apply to all programs. Remedies and complaint filing deadlines vary by program or incidence. The slide contains contact information for individuals with disabilities to request reasonable accommodations, and language access services will be provided to limited English proficient individuals upon request. And that anyone wishing to file a complaint can utilize the phone number, fax number, or postal mailing address listed on this slide.
Okay, before we continue, I would like to introduce our NEFA Organic Agriculture team. It includes myself, Matthew Ngowajo, or just Matt. I'm a National Science Liaison with NEFA, and I have been involved with this program for close to 10 years now. Steve?
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Smith, National Program Leader for Animal Production Systems. And I've been with NIFA now for approaching 15 years. Most of that has been associated with this program as well. So long history here, and look forward to talking with you this afternoon.
My name is Catherine Bonnert, and I'm a program specialist. I've been at NIFA for 3 years, and I'm assigned to the organic programs.
Thank you, Catherine. And I just wanted to point out that all three of us will be presenting today, and we did that on purpose so that you get to know the people behind the NIFA Organic Program, so that when you send us an email, you can attach a face to that email that you will receive. So we have a long list of topics to cover today, which is the next slide. The first thing that we will go through will be a NIFA overview. Then we will talk about this specific program, and then details of the request for application. We will call that RFA throughout the presentation. We will talk about the proposal evaluation process, and then finish with a couple of resources that will help you put together your application. Next slide. First, for the NIFA overview, what do we do at NIFA? NIFA is the extramural entity of USDA. We fund research, education, and extension. NIFA invests and support initiatives that ensure the long-term viability of agriculture. We do also fund and provide strategic leadership to programs that would provide groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture. Not only do we fund those projects, but we ensure that the results from those projects are put in the hands of the end users. Next. Okay, we don't just do organic agriculture. We found a broad range of topics at NEFA, and I'm not going to go through all these. You know, you bring your ideas, you select the appropriate program, and you can submit there. And if you're not sure about the program, we can always contact NEFA. We will tell you which program will be a better fit for your research idea. Next. Okay, now the ORAI program, an overview of that. What do we do for this specific program? Next. The program, the purpose is to solve critical organic agriculture issues, priorities, or problems through the integration of research, education, and extension activities. And you know already that we have many organic programs at NEFA. This specific program focuses more on solving the issues of those who have already adopted organic standard. So those who have already received organic certification. Next. So in terms of priorities, what is the focus of our program in 2024? We have a long list of priorities. In fact, we have 9 of them. And all 9 of them are in our request for application in the RFA. If you look at page 6 to 7, you have a detailed listing of all those priorities. So I'm not going to go through any detail here. I'm just pointing you to the right direction where you can find that in the RFA. Priority 1 focuses on on-farm research, working directly with farmers, whether it's for plant production or for livestock. When you're working directly with farmers, that will fit in priority number 1. 2, if you are interested in developing tools for extension system, for those people who advise farmers, that will fit in priority 2. Priority 3 is anything that has to do with post-harvest handling processes and food safety practices. Any of that will fit in priority 3. And priority 4 is what I will call the organic propagation system, either the transplant production or the seed production or the plant breeding will fit in priority 4. And one disclaimer there is we are really interested in product that will be publicly available to everyone upon release. Next slide. For priority 5, we are looking, I would call that in short words, it's what focuses on integrated pest management. So we are looking at technology that would meet the requirement of the National Organic Program that will protect soil, water, and other resources and focus on integrated pest management, both disease, nematode, weed, insect, and anything that could be a big problem for organic farmers. Now, most of what I have talked so far had to do with plant system. How about animal system? Priority 6 and 7 focus on animal system. Priority 6 is about the animal production system itself, both health or pest management in organic animal production. Priority 7 is about breeding and evaluation of selected animal breed and genotypes. Next slide for priority 8 and 9, the last 2. 8 is about education only. And we are looking for program that will develop undergraduate or graduate curricula for organic agriculture. And priority 9 is projects addressing any marketing, policy, or socioeconomic barriers to the expansion of organic agriculture in the country. And again, one caveat is that we do not provide funding for activities focusing on lobbying or advocacy within the framework of that priority 9. Next. Okay, so these are just some other requirements of the program that you will find on page 8 and 9 of the RFA. Again, we are asking because this is for people who have been certified organic already. Therefore, we want most of the research to be done on certified organic facilities. So if for some reason, and that should be justified by the research objective, the research is done on a facility in transition, we fully expect that facility to be certified by the end of the study. And so most people ask us, what do you call certified facility? The only criteria that we use is USDA certification. You could be doing things organically, following all the organic regulations, but as long as you do not have that USDA certification, we will not consider that as a certified facility. Same thing is true here for animal system. If all investigation on animal health should be conducted in organic setting. So, and the last point here, we have two organic programs, the organic transitions and this program ORAI. We do not want someone to submit the same proposal to those two programs the same year at the same time. When that happens, we will disqualify both. Next slide. Okay, these are just some other program requirements. If you have previously received an award from us, either with ORAI or the Organic Transition Program, as the PD, not co-PD, if you have received that as the PD, the lead PD, and you are submitting a proposal as the lead PD, therefore, there we are asking you to provide the award number for the previous award and to tell us a little bit about the significant outcome or impacts from those previous awards. We are only asking for a small paragraph for that, about 300 words. And that applies to both ORAI and the organic transitions. And this section will not count against the 21-page limit that we require for the narrative. Some people will ask, does that, penalize those who have never received award before? I would say no. In our panel, we make sure that we provide some guidelines so that those who have not received award before are not penalized because of this requirement. Next. So eligibility, who is eligible to submit a proposal to this program? You see a long list of criteria there of those eligible from page 15 of the RFA, but I can summarize that in just a couple of words. If you are a US citizen, or if you are a US entity, you are qualified to submit a proposal. Whether you are an NGO or a private company or an individual, as long as you are a US citizen and you are a US entity, you can submit a proposal to this. So very broad eligibility for this program. Next slide. Okay, application submission. We usually receive a lot of requests from many institutions asking us if that institution can submit more than one application. The answer is yes. Any institution can submit as many applications as they see fit. The same thing applies to the PDs, the project director. Each project director can submit as many applications as they see fit. So there is no limit to the number of awards also per institution. The only requirement is don't submit the same idea multiple times. When that happens, we will disqualify all those proposals. Next slide. Okay, here, what are the different project and grant types? I think Steve can cover this. Steve?
Yes, thank you, Matt. For this program, we have two project types, and we'll talk about these in some detail in the next few slides. But we fund, we invite integrated proposals, and curriculum projects. We have 3 grant types: standard, conference, and planning grants. Next slide, please. They differ in both term and funding levels. The integrated proposals, we have 3 tiers for those of different scales and scopes. Those are intended for project periods of 3 to 4 years. They are standard grant types with funding ranging from $1 million to $2 million to $3.5 million. Curriculum development proposals, also for 3 or 4 years. Those are considered standard grants with a maximum award size of $750,000. Conference proposals, those are 12-month awards up to $75,000. And planning proposals, 1-year awards intended for planning up to $50,000. So let's talk about those in a little more detail. Next slide, please. The integrated project proposals, those must include research and at least one additional element, or both, education and or extension. So that's what we mean by integrated. We're integrating research with education and research with extension, or all 3. So several years ago now, Matt and I were challenged by a panel that were looking to make things actually a little more equitable based on the size of institutions and actually the need for money for a particular project idea. And at that time, we came up with the tiered system that I think has gone quite well for us. The tier 1 proposals, those are intended to be large coordinated projects addressing critical issues that cut across multiple regions. We do strongly recommend an advisory panel to help guide those. Tier 2, those are slightly smaller in scale and scope, but still very significant. They're multidisciplinary projects addressing issues that may be either national or regional in scope. And then we allow for the tier 3 proposals, and these projects address specific critical constraints, possibly with a more narrow scope or more locally specific in nature. So again, we're trying not to be terribly prescriptive geographically, but if you are choosing one tier or another, please think carefully about the scale and scope of your project and what is appropriate in terms of the tier and the funding request. Next slide, please. Curriculum development proposals are much like they sound, but I want to make sure you understand it's curriculum development proposals providing assistance in the development of undergraduate or graduate curriculum in organic agriculture. This is student education. It's the recipient is what really makes the definition here. If you are developing educational activities that deliver information to producers, that's considered extension. This is intended to support educational activities that might be like instructional delivery in the classroom or experiential learning, where you're putting students and farmers together for that type of engagement, that kind of education. But it does not include the routine use of students as personnel on research projects. If it's not part of the educational role or the scholarship of the program, that doesn't count, nor does the extension work. Next slide, please. Conference proposals, much like they sound, again, they support workshops or symposia bringing together scientists and others, including end users, because sometimes that's a question, to help identify research, education, or extension needs, to provide updated information, or advance the understanding of organic issues and problems using a systems-based approach. And planning proposals provide support in the development of some of these bigger projects with the full intent that they're going to lead to the development and submission of a full standard ORAI proposal. Next slide, please.
Yeah, Steve. And a common question that we usually receive from many of our applicants is that NIFA has 2 organic programs, the Organic Transitions and ORAI. And they usually ask us, what is the best program for my research idea? And that's why we put together this diagram right here. I would say the two programs focus all on organic, and the common denominator for those is if you are focusing on production efficiency, if you are focusing on profitability, if you want to make the industry more competitive, it will fit in all those two programs. Now, for the details of the studies that you are doing, if the focus is on operating organic systems, then it will go to ORAI there on your right. If you're focusing on on-farm studies, if you want to look at educational tool, if you focus on post-harvest, on seed, on breeding, on IPM, Steve just talked about curriculum development. He talked about conference planning and planning grant. All those will fit in ORAI. Now, on the other side, if you are more interested in ecosystem services of our organic agriculture, protecting water, soil, pollinator, biodiversity, greenhouse gases, carbon sequestration, if you're interested in developing tools and models to better understand the organic system, or you are focusing on barriers to transition, then those things will all fall in the organic transitions. We also put in the organic transition anything that has to do with the National Organic Program priorities, the NOP, things like alternative to antibiotics or to methionine. So this gives you a great picture of where your idea can fit, but you can always contact us at NIFA and I will tell you which program is better for your research ideas. Next, back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Matt. Just want to draw your attention to some things that we cannot fund. And this is not a NIFA decision, or certainly not an OREI decision from Matt and myself, but this is driven by the uniform guidance that covers grants within the federal government. We can't spend money to purchase land. You can't use our money to buy farm equipment. You can't use our money to construct or renovate buildings and facilities. There's limitations to international activities. If, however, we do recommend, we do not just recommend, we encourage international collaboration where there is primary benefit to the US. So it's not prohibited, but if you come to us, as we have had in this program, come to us with interest in investing in research on a commodity that isn't grown in the US, but is but you're interested in promoting it in another country, that's not going to gain any traction. That's not going to be allowed. And nor do we provide direct assistance to producers. That's not to say that we cannot or will not support honoraria, if you want to call it that, for collaborating producers. If they're part of your project, there's even an expectation on our part that you will provide support for them. But if you're talking just direct assistance to producers, much like Farm Service Agency does some of that, NRCS does some of that, that is not in our wheelhouse. Next slide, please. There is an expectation for cost share and matching in all of our awards within NIFA. However, those dollar for dollar matching of federal funds, be aware that we do have the authority to waive matching requirements if they meet specific criteria, if the request meets specific criteria, if your work is of particular benefit to a specific agriculture commodity, but likely to be applicable across many agriculture commodities, there's the opportunity for waiver. The other one that's really particularly useful for our organic programs is if the project involves a minor commodity, the project deals with scientifically important research, and the grant recipient is unable to satisfy the matching fund requirements, we can also grant a waiver. And as much as we appreciate and recognize the importance and growth of organic agriculture, in most cases, it will still be considered by strictest definitions a minor commodity. And so if you wish to request a waiver of the matching requirement, please do so. But do put that in your narrative so that we know that you're requesting those. And just to stress, the matching resources that you do or do not provide are not going to factor into the review process. Next slide, please.
Okay, I think here, Catherine, can you
Yes, I
tell us a
can.
little bit about some of the details and document that we need to submit?
Yes, I'll be covering the application details and documents. The RFA is available online and through this link on the funding opportunity page for OREI. All of these slides will be made available after the recording, so you will be able to click on the links. Email will be sent out to registered participants on how to access this information. And then also we have a couple of documents that are housed on our organic programs page, the OREI program synopsis, and some frequently asked questions. So feel free to look at those. The application deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, February 15th, 2024, and all applications must be submitted through grants.gov. The total funding available for fiscal year 2024 is approximately $44 million, which will be made, the funding will be made available to the states. The program code is 113.A. The maximum funding award is $3.5 million. Like Matt had said before, there's no limitation on the number of proposals per institution, and there's also no limitation on the number of awards per institution for this program. Here is a slide outlining the key documents of your application. The project summary and abstract must be included in your application, as well as a project narrative. And then these bullet points just call out some of the different sections for the narrative. The response to previous reviews, if you are submitting a resubmission, you can provide up to 3 pages in response to the previous reviews. And that does not count against the page limitation for the project narrative. Then the executive summary and table of contents will be next. That also does not count against the limitation for the narrative. The outcome from previous awards, like Matt had mentioned, if you're a PD who has received funding from ORG or OREI, you can include that section. That does not count against the narrative limitation, page numbers. Then the introduction is where it starts counting for the 21 pages. So you can include the introduction, rationale and significance, objectives, approach, project timeline. And if you're submitting an integrated proposal and want to request Centers of Excellence designation, you have to provide a section explaining why your proposal is deemed as a Center of Excellence. And that is included in the page limit for the narrative. Another required document is the bibliography and reference list. Within also the data management plan. A mentoring plan is strongly recommended if the proposal requests funding for student or postdoctoral support. You need to include a project management plan, and then a logic model is strongly recommended for Tier 1 and Tier 2 project proposals. You need to have a budget and budget narrative, and then there are other documents that you can find within the RFA, and the link will let you access those. For the project narrative, there's a 21-page limit, and then 7 pages for conference or planning proposals, and this will be strictly enforced. There's a 1 or 1.5 line spacing for the application. Then you also need to have no font that is smaller than 12 point times New Roman, and this applies to the text and the figures in the tables. Tables may be single spaced, and I believe that they do allow 11 point font for the tables. Any applications that exceed the page limitation will be returned without review. Steve, would you like to go over the data management plan?
Okay.
And you're on mute, Steve.
Okay, Steve, are you there?
Yes, I apologize for being muted. These projects do require data management plans. The investigators must provide detailed, up to 2 pages, so only that level of detail for the business and management plans, including the expected data type, the data format, how that data is going to be stored and preserved, how you intend for it to be shared, protected, and particularly public access. How is it, the executive order that brought this into our arena mandated that it be publicly accessible. So we need to know how you plan to do that. And then the roles and responsibilities of those people involved with the data management plan. A lot more details are available. And if you would look at our website and the resources available there through this link, that would be a good idea, and it would behoove you to do so. Next slide, please.
Right, and NIFA only accepts electronic submissions of applications, and the NIFA grants application guide is available at that link. And application documents must be in portable document format, otherwise known as PDF, to be accepted by NIFA. This includes your narrative and budget justifications. Now, grants.gov does allow other formats, but unfortunately the NIFA system does not accept anything except PDFs. So those documents will not be included in your submission, and it could result in a rejected application. So we also recommend that you do not use third-party PDF builders.
Okay, yeah, let's talk a little bit about the evaluation process here. Since when you submit your proposal, it will be subjected to a peer panel review process. And we thought it would be good for you to know a little bit about that process. Next slide. So when you submit your application, what happens? First, your application will be sent to at least 3 reviewers that are knowledgeable in your specific area. So those minimum 3 reviewers will provide a written review, a feedback that is based on strengths and weaknesses of your proposal. Everything just based on scientific and technical merits. Those written reviews will be used in our panel that will be convened, where we have all the panelists in one room. They will use those written reviews as the beginning of the discussion on your specific proposal. And we will go, each proposal will receive a full discussion during that time. At the end of that discussion, the proposal will be ranked based on scientific merit. So they will all be put on a ranking board from the top proposal all the way to the bottom. I will provide funding based on that ranking. Next slide. Now, in terms of evaluation, it's like a game, and we want to make sure that everyone knows the rules of the game. What are the evaluation criteria? You have that outlined in the RFA. We want to be transparent. We want everyone to know about those rules. It is on page 27, 29. So it talks about the proposal relevance. And you all know we are dealing with organic agriculture here. If your proposal is deemed not relevant to organic agriculture, we will not even accept it in this program. So if we determine during our administrative review that you fit in the program, then you will subject it to the scientific review. And the proposal, some of the criteria are the proposal quality. We want to look at the conceptual adequacy. Does the application clearly state the objective, or do you provide a good framework for the program, a time frame, the scope of work, is the budget appropriate? Then we look at the approach, which is the methodology. How are you going to address or to find a solution to the issue that you have identified? Are you involving the appropriate and relevant expertise? Are the people involved in the project experienced to do what you are proposing? Is the budget appropriate? You know, what is the probability of success of that specific program? And Catherine just covered a couple of things there about the detail of the application. Are you following all those guidelines in terms of page limit, page numbers, spacing, data management plan? All that will be factored in that evaluation. Next. So in terms of timeline, once we publish our RFA, request for application, we usually allow you between 1 and 2 months to work on your proposal and submit it. We were really lucky this year that we were able to provide even more time than that. When we receive the applications in, we usually take another 2 to 3 months to go through our peer review process and make proposal decision and notification. And after that, for those who are lucky to be recommended for funding, it would take another 1 to 2 months for those awards to be finalized. So on average, it takes between 3 and 5 months from your proposal due date to an award being made to your institution. But we will keep you informed as this, process plays out. We will keep telling you, where we are in that long process. Next slide. Okay, additional information about the program. This is, if you really want to know what has been funded in the previous year through this program, you have a link right there at the bottom of this slide. So when you get this slide, you can click on that link and it will allow you to go and search our system and see what our project has been funded in the past. Next. Okay, Steve, some of the upcoming events.
Yes. Just to tie a bow on this presentation and encourage you to take a look at a little bit more of the available information. We do have some upcoming events I want to draw your attention to. The events calendar for upcoming deadlines, meetings, and webinars. This is for NIFA very broadly, can be found at the website you see there. The upcoming request for application release calendar is on there as well, which will show this program in subsequent years, but these RFAs are already out. But if you're interested in other programs as well, or this one in the future, that's where you need to go. Next slide, please. And then we have a wealth of information that can help you as you make your decisions and proceed down the path to submit for funding. The list of funding opportunities, the competitive grant flow chart, which gives you a really good feel for the whole process that we undergo to bring these competitive grants to you and take them to funding. The grants resources page, a lot of good information there. The policy guide, which not a lot of you avail yourself, but it's great information and helps explain a lot of the things that we do. If you have questions about the indirect costs, we have a link there for that, as well as the all-important guide for preparation and submission of the applications in grants.gov. That's probably, in my opinion, the most important link on this page. And then as well as then a couple more links that will give you information on grants that have been made within this program, and also the overview of our organic programs and our organic webpage. Next slide, and I believe that will bring us to questions that you have for us.
Yep, and you still have our names there with our email should you want to contact us anytime during the preparation of your application. So with that, I will take down the presentation, Catherine, and then we can address any questions that we received. Okay, can I just go in the Q&A? We have a first question there. What is the average funding rate for OREI? Yeah, we are usually between, I would say between 18 and 25%. So I would give an average of about 25% funding rate for ORAI. Okay, the second question is, just an idea about how many projects have received a one-on-one matching requirement or provided that one-on-one. Steve was telling you that usually this program, organic, continue to be a minor crop. So we have a lot of applications that will use the minor commodity as a base for justification of a waiver. And in general, I would say usually maybe less than 5 or less than even 2% of the project will provide the one-to-one matching. Okay. Okay, the next question is for Glenn, who wanted to do research on antibiotic-free technologies in organic poultry production systems. Yeah, that is again one of those type of questions that, Glenn, if you want a perfect match, we will say the perfect fit will be the organic transitions. However, based on what you are saying, if you are working or your technology can immediately be accepted in organic production, then you could also go for ORAI. But if you are testing something that you are not sure, in the end, it will be adopted by the USDA organic standard. We will advise you to go for the organic transitions. That is, again, a small difference there. And we do recognize also that there are some people who like to jump to ORAI, even when the fit is better with organic transitions, because the organic transitions only offer 1 million as the award ceiling, and ORAI offers more. But please don't use money as the deciding factor for where you are submitting your proposal.
And can I jump in quickly? I'm seeing a few questions pop up in the chat. Please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A section. I would appreciate that very much. I don't want you to get skipped because we aren't monitoring the chat as we are the Q&A at this moment.
Yeah, and there is a note in the chat also that says in the document, there is a note in parentheses for the priorities on page 6 that they're not listed in order of importance. And that is true.
That is correct.
That is correct.
There's another, I'll just go through the chat questions real quick. So it says, since the deadline is less than 5 weeks away, if we have additional questions before receiving the presentation, who should we contact?
Yeah, they can contact any of us or even just send the email to all of us in case someone may be on annual leave or not in the office right away. So
that would be wise.
Yeah.
Another question is, what are the steps to be certified by USDA? No room for an entity who is not certified to apply for the grant.
That actually has two facets, and I would refer you to the to Ag Marketing Services, the National Organic Program, for the certification steps. That is a rather involved process. Often takes most commonly takes multiple years. But keep in mind that you can use, engage collaborating producers who do have certified land, so you are not blocked from participation, but you do still have to find that certified facilities within which to do your research. So it just, whether you have it in-house or whether you go out of house for those facilities, but you are still welcome to participate as long as you find those certified facilities.
Yeah, that is, point on, Steve. And a lot of people don't understand that we do not run the National Organic Program. So the National Organic Program is run by Agricultural Marketing Service that Steve just talked about. All we do is run these grand scientific program, nothing to do with the policies or all the detail of getting certified.
For integrated tier 1 or 2 projects, do we need to have multi-state partners?
We hear a lot about that, and there's no requirement. I know Steve covered that a little bit. We are not going to ask people, we need this many state or this many universities as part of this to make it a tier 1. No, let the idea, let the research, the breadth of that research dictate what tier a project will fall under. And don't just say, I'm going to add 10 universities or 10 regions just because it is a tier 1. Yeah, but however, one of the key things is both tier 1 and tier 2, we want to see a multidisciplinary type of team. It could come from the same institution, it could come from the region, it could come nationally, but we want to address multidisciplinary type of research.
And is there a requirement on how many and who should be writing the support letters?
Steve?
There's no magic there either, as far as numbers. I would say it's more driven by who are the key players in your area. Who's expressing the need for the work that you're doing. By all means, engage them and encourage them to offer letters of support. But it doesn't seem to gain any traction with the panel if you just go out willy-nilly and just try to get a whole lot of letters from folks that may or may not be particularly involved in what you're doing. Oftentimes that's not viewed positively. So where appropriate, do try to get letters of support. And in most cases, when you're doing work in the organic community, there are groups out there, both at the research level, but at the extension level, but particularly at the producer level, and the commodity groups that are supporting those, who have a vested interest in what it is that you're doing. By all means, engage those folks, because those letters are very important.
Then what are the success rates for private research companies? What should the private research companies consider to increase the chance of getting funded?
Oh, there's no magic there either. We don't have set asides either way. In effect, for this program, unlike organic transitions, the eligibility is very broad. All U.S. entities are eligible. That doesn't mean all of them have the resources to put together a competitive research, education, extension project, but certainly folks in industry do. You are most welcome. You are have the same chance of success as anyone else. Just need to focus on the priorities in the program and articulate, how you can achieve those in a compelling fashion, and your success will not be diminished at all by the fact that you're a private industry as opposed to a land-grant university or an NGO.
Yes, Dave, and we have noticed also that the success rate is really high for teams that work together in a complementary way. You have a university working with a private research entity or an NGO. Those people working together and pulling all their strength and together to put together an application rather than working in isolation.
There is a person who's working as a consultant with a university that has 3 faculty involved. Is there an opportunity to schedule a Zoom or Teams meeting with one of the organic staff if they have additional questions beyond this presentation?
I think we touched on it earlier when we gave our individual names and contact information. If you're interested in something like that, please do send an email to us and we can try to get that scheduled.
Yeah, but the only thing that we will not know is we We do not know how, we do not educate people on how to put together the application itself.
We do not write for you.
Yeah.
And yes, that's probably the best way to phrase that. But we can certainly answer questions about the program. We often get questions about the appropriateness or fit to a program. We can coach you there. But no, we will, and nor will we pre-review an application. We do get a lot of requests for that, where they, oh, I've got it all written up. I want you to read it before I submit it. From an ethical standpoint, we have to refrain from doing that. So.
If a proposal has a multidisciplinary team of various expertise, but only has 2 participating institutions in different states, does it fit tier 2 or tier 3 better?
I would say again, it could be any of those 3 tiers. This is the
Scale
thing.
and scope. It's all
Exactly.
scale and scope.
Exactly.
And then can you discuss the budget restriction on equipment again? Is there flexibility for some specialty equipment?
There's a little bit of wiggle for specialty equipment that is, absolutely required for the work. But general farm equipment, trucks, HVAC units for your buildings, no, there's no flexibility there. But if it's a very specific piece of equipment that's required for the work you're proposing, that can be considered, yes.
In the past, when that happened, you would just need a pre-approval from us if you are successful. And we have approved things like cover crops, special cover crop seeder of or up to even 20,000, things like that. But it had to be so specific to that research. And you have to be in a situation where you cannot get it from somewhere else.
And can you speak to the need for external evaluators for the proposal? Is this a recommendation or a requirement?
Well, for tier 1 project, it has to be part of the proposal. It's really not negotiable there. We want someone who is not a team member on your proposal. We usually receive requests, can I get someone from my institution to be an external evaluator? If it happened that the best team to do that evaluation is on your campus, as long as those people are not core part of your project, it should be fine.
Here's a really specific one. Can my research be on selling organic crops to refugees in the war that is going on, gathering other organic farmers as cooperative to support the community in need of food? Is this a good idea?
Sure, I followed the questions. I'm going to pull up that.
Can you read that again, Catherine?
Oh, sure. Sorry. So can my research be on selling organic crops to refugees in the war that is going on in the present too, gathering other organic farmers as cooperative to support the community in need of food? Is this a good idea?
Probably not a good fit for this specific program. I would say here that it really depends on how you frame those broad objective of the program of your activities. Do you have a research component in there? If yes, fine. What are the key objectives of that research? What are the hypotheses? How do you intend to find a solution? Or are you focusing more on extension? Or are you focusing more on education, which is undergraduate and graduate? Those are the things that we fund. Other than that, if that is about developing a business, then we have other programs within NEFA, the small business program, that will address those things. And we tend to not compete among ourselves with our various programs within our institution. So if it's just about getting something going and selling it to an audience, probably we will accept the application, but I can clearly tell you that it will not panel very well in our program. And if you look at everything that has been funded in the past, you will probably not find a similar project there.
What are those activities that are typically proposed or allowed in a planning grant?
Oh. Of course, you can find additional, if you go to that list of resources on like the third to the last slide, you'll find the NIFA resources page. One of those will lead you to project types and talk about things like, like all of these, but including planning grants. But much like you would infer from the name, that's not intended for generating preliminary data, doing research. It's intended to help pull the team together, cover some travel costs if you need a venue to meet. It's that kind of thing so that you can get all your ducks in a row and leading to the development and submission of a standard application.
Yeah, any idea can fit in the planning grant. You just have to make the case that you do not have the resources to put together a team, or you are trying to get a new idea and get that team together. It could be accepted as a planning grant. Any idea?
And this one is just asking, please repeat the success rate of OREI versus ORG in recent years. They just missed it.
Yeah, OREI, the success rate, I would say between 18 and 25. And the organic transition is a higher success rate. And we have even seen close to 40 and 50% in the recent years. So organic transition, I would say between 30 and 40% overall.
And part of that, I think, is with the increase in funding that has been directed to OREI. A lot of you folks have been drawn like moths to the light. And as a result, in the last couple of years, organic transitions has been undersubscribed. So think carefully about what Matt just said, because we need to draw more applications to organic transitions, or we'll be at risk of losing the program, and we do not want that. So consider your odds, consider particularly your research ideas, and if it fits organic transitions, there's a few things that'll cross over and fit both, but many of the things that fit organic transitions are being submitted to OREI and not faring well. So please go where your project fits, and if it's organic transitions, smile knowingly that you are going to the higher odds program.
We have the organic transition webinar in about 30 minutes from now. If you can watch that also and pay special attention to eligibility.
I know we're a couple minutes over. We have a few more questions. This one should be pretty quick. Are the budget limits per tier firm?
The maximum, yes. Minimum, you can submit for less, but you can't submit for more.
Yep.
Going back to the question about equipment, if someone is interested in water conservation research, does this grant cover water conservation equipment like a rainwater catchment system?
If that is critical to achieving objective of the project, yes.
Right. And then one more, how can the private companies or individuals determine the salary amount for the proposal? Is there any guideline or threshold, for an example, a research scientist or research assistant for the private research companies?
No guideline for that. We know also, even just myself being back from different universities, even university, the salaries are not the same from one institution to another. Just put whatever is applicable for that specific situation. We just don't want to see, let's say, a postdoc receiving $100,000 or $150,000 salary. As long as it's reasonable and you can justify it, it will be accepted.
And then this person has research that could fit either ORG or OREI. Last year, he submitted it to OREI. If it is sent to ORG this year, would it be a resubmission?
Yes.
It's, everything is in your favor. And now, please do check the eligibility for organic transitions, because that's colleges and universities only. So if you're not one of them, that would be a mistake. But if you're eligible and you fit the priorities, I think that, but everything is in to your advantage. Do make a note early in the narrative that, it is a resubmission, and give the project number so we can easily find it, because we will provide that information to the panelists. And when you're crossing over programs, it makes it a little harder for us. So, but yes, because it gives you the opportunity to give a response to previous review, and everything's in your favor if you do it that way.
And the last one is just a comment. Is it possible to host this webinar earlier to provide sufficient time for potential applicants to develop the proposal?
I think it's a good question, and we will consider that next time. I really think it's a great question.
And a lot of it's driven by when the RFA actually gets published. And that's probably the one factor that we have the least ability to predict. Sometimes it goes very promptly, like this year it went well. Last year it did not. So it makes our scheduling a little bit more of a challenge. So, but it's a great question. And as Matt said, we'll give it very careful consideration.
I think that wraps
Okay.
up the questions.
With that, Catherine, I think that will conclude our webinar for today. And we just hope that many of these colleagues will join the Organic Transitions webinar that will follow about 30 minutes from now. Thank you again for attending today.
Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you again soon.